The gleaming spires of the Galactic Medical Academy pierced the violet skies of Centauri Prime, their crystalline surfaces reflecting the light of 3 moons. Inside the most prestigious medical facility in the known universe, Director Valera Zinn stood before the Academy's board, her iridescent scales shifting from deep blue to anxious green. "Distinguished colleagues," she began, her secondary breathing chambers fluttering, "I understand your concerns about accepting a human into our residency program. However, Dr. Sarah Chen's credentials from Earth's Mayo Clinic are exceptional." The assembled alien medical professionals buzzed with disapproval. Chief Surgeon Cathor, his crystalline exoskeleton gleaming, raised 3 of his appendages. "Humans are barely spacefaring. Their medical knowledge is primitive compared to our 10,000 years of advancement." Valera was about to respond when emergency alerts blared through the facility. A massive mining accident in the thorium belts. Multiple species affected. Critical casualties incoming. Within minutes, the emergency bay erupted into controlled chaos. Among the rushing medical staff stood Dr. Sarah Chen, her dark hair tied back, standard-issue medical scanner hanging from her belt. Despite being the only human in the facility, she moved with quiet confidence. The first wave of patients arrived through the quantum teleporters, miners with severe radiation burns, crushed limbs, and toxic exposure, species from across the galaxy, each requiring different atmospheric conditions and treatment protocols. "Impossible to treat them all," Thor announced, his crystalline form vibrating with stress. "Environmental requirements alone would take hours to configure." Sarah stepped forward, her eyes scanning the scene with remarkable speed. "We don't need separate environments. I can treat them in a neutral atmosphere." Her colleagues stared in disbelief as she continued. "Humans evolved to work with our hands in variable conditions. We can adapt." Before anyone could object, she was already moving. Her bare hands worked with precision that the aliens' environmental suits couldn't match. She diagnosed and treated patients while simultaneously instructing the medical eye to reconfigure treatment protocols. Hours passed in a blur of activity. Sarah moved without rest, her human physiology allowing her to push through fatigue that would have incapacitated other species. She performed emergency surgery on a crystalline miner while exposed to radiation levels that should have been lethal, her cells somehow repairing damage in real time. When the crisis finally ended, 23 species had been saved, including several that standard protocols would have declared unsalvageable. The medical staff gathered in the recovery ward, watching in fascination as Sarah checked on patients without changing protective gear between environments. "Impossible," whispered Cathor, all 4 of his hearts beating rapidly. "The temperature variations alone." "Humans evolved on a planet with extreme temperature variations," Sarah explained, checking a patient's vital signs. "We can function in conditions from near freezing to over 40 degrees Celsius. Our hands can detect micro-variations in temperature that help us diagnose issues. And our bodies are constantly adapting, healing, changing." Valera's scales shifted to deep purple, the color of profound respect. "You operated for 12 hours straight, exposed to 6 different atmospheric conditions, 3 types of radiation, and toxic compounds. How are you still functioning?" Sarah smiled, exhaustion finally showing on her face. "That's not even close to the limits of human endurance. On Earth, we have emergency responders who work in disasters for days, surgeons who perform operations for over 24 hours. Our bodies just adapt." The alien medical staff looked at each other, their various physiological indicators showing shock and dawning realization. They had assumed their advanced technology made them superior. But here was a species that could do things their technology couldn't replicate. Survive the unsurvivable, adapt to the impossible, keep functioning when all logical analysis said they should fail. "I believe," Valera announced to the assembled staff, "we have much to learn from our human colleague, and perhaps we need to reconsider what we think of as impossible." Sarah nodded gratefully, then turned as another alert sounded. "Multiple trauma incoming," she said, already moving toward the emergency bay. anyone want to learn how humans handle impossible situations? The alien doctors followed, their curiosity overcoming their prejudice. They had just witnessed something extraordinary, not just human physical resilience, but the indomitable spirit that drove humans to keep going when every other species would have stopped. The Academy would never be the same, and this was only the beginning. 3 weeks after the mining disaster, the Galactic Medical Academy was still abuzz with discussions about human capabilities. Dr. Sarah Chen had become something of a medical curiosity herself, with various departments requesting to study her cellular structure and adaptive responses. That morning, she stood in the quantum imaging chamber, observing a patient that had the entire medical staff baffled. A Meridian star sailor, one of the energy-based species that traveled the galaxy's solar winds, lay suspended in a containment field. Their usually brilliant azure energy pattern had dimmed to a dangerous gray. Terminal case, declared Chief Diagnostician Erkstel, their crystalline sensory arrays pulsing with resignation. The ionic degradation has progressed beyond any known treatment threshold. We estimate total energy dissipation within 48 hours. Sarah stepped closer to the containment field, her eyes narrowing. The alien medical staff had grown used to that expression. It usually preceded what they now called a human moment. "What if we're thinking about this wrong?" she said, pulling up the patient's quantum signature on her datapad. "We're trying to treat this like an energy problem, but what if we treat it like human hypothermia?" Valera Zinn, who had become one of Sarah's strongest advocates, tilted her head curiously. "Explain." "When humans get too cold, our bodies shut down systems to preserve core function. But we can be revived even after appearing clinically dead. Our cells can recover from what should be fatal energy loss." Sarah's fingers flew across the interface, modeling a new treatment protocol. "What if the Meridian's energy pattern isn't failing? What if it's protecting itself?" Cathor, who had gradually moved from skeptic to reluctant admirer, studied the model. "Fascinating theory, but the energy transfer required would be beyond our technical capabilities," Sarah finished, "but not beyond human adaptive capacity. Our bodies can generate and transfer energy in ways your instruments still can't fully map." Before anyone could stop her, Sarah reached toward the containment field. Valera's scales flashed alarm red. "Dr. Chen, direct contact with a meridian energy pattern is fatal to organic life." "Under normal circumstances, yes," Sarah agreed, her hand steady. "But humans have something unique. We can form new neural pathways on the fly. Our nervous system can adapt to almost any energy pattern if we approach it correctly." The room fell silent as Sarah's hand penetrated the containment field. Her skin began to glow with a faint blue luminescence. The assembled alien's various monitoring devices went haywire, recording impossible readings from her cellular structure. "Our bodies are constantly performing the impossible," Sarah explained through gritted teeth. "Every second, our cells are making millions of decisions, adapting to threats, rewriting their own code. We don't just survive the impossible, we integrate it." The Meridian's gray energy pattern began to pulse in rhythm, with the blue glow emanating from Sarah's hand. Quantum readings showed something unprecedented. Human cellular energy was synchronizing with the alien pattern, creating a bridge that defied known physics. Hours passed as Sarah maintained the connection, her body serving as a living template for the Meridian's energy pattern to rebuild itself. The alien doctors watched in fascination as their instruments recorded the impossible, human biological systems adapting in real time to channel and reshape pure energy. Finally, the Meridian's pattern flared brilliant azure once more. Sarah withdrew her hand, stumbling slightly. Thor caught her with one crystalline appendage. "Are you all right?" Valera asked, her scales shifting through colors of concern. Sarah flexed her fingers, which still glowed faintly. "I'm fine. Human cells are remarkably good at processing trauma. By tomorrow, my system will have integrated whatever changes this caused. We adapt. It's what we do." The Meridian patient, now fully recovered, pulsed a pattern that the translators rendered as profound gratitude. More than that, their energy readings showed something new: traces of human cellular patterns integrated into their quantum matrix. "This changes everything," Arxtal whispered. "If human adaptive capabilities can be studied, understood, you'll find," Sarah said with a tired smile, "that understanding humans only leads to discovering we're even more impossible than you thought." She straightened her medical coat. "Now, who's going to help me document this for the medical journals? We just invented an entirely new field of xenobiological energy transfer." The alien doctors crowded around eagerly, their scientific curiosity overcoming their astonishment. In just a few weeks, this human had not only survived the impossible, but had begun to revolutionize their understanding of medical science itself. And somehow, they all knew this was still just the beginning of what humans would show them was possible. The Galactic Medical Academy's containment wing housed the most dangerous pathogens and volatile medical cases in known space. Its quantum-reinforced walls and multi-layered security systems made it practically impenetrable. At least, that's what everyone believed until the power core failed. Dr. Sarah Chen was conducting her rounds when the emergency alerts began. Red emergency lighting cast strange shadows through the crystalline corridors as the containment wing's backup systems engage. "Main power core critical failure," the AI announced. "Containment fields at 60% and falling. Quantum stabilizers offline." Valera's scales turned ash-gray with horror. "We have 327 high-risk specimens in containment. If those fields fail, how long until complete failure?" Sarah asked, already moving toward the containment wing's sealed entrance. 17 minutes, Cathor replied, his crystalline form vibrating with stress frequencies. "The backup systems are failing faster than predicted. Something is wrong with the quantum matrix itself. Evacuation protocols are clear," Arxtal announced. "We must initiate emergency purge. Better to lose the specimens than risk a breach." Sarah studied the diagnostic readouts, her mind racing. Those specimens include the last known samples of the Andromeda plague cure, the neural regeneration symbiotes for the crystalline species. We purge those, and dozens of species lose their only treatment options. "The containment wing's radiation levels are already lethal," Valera protested. "The temperature is approaching absolute zero in some sections, plasma temperatures in others. No living being can survive those conditions long enough to reach the core." Sarah was already removing her medical coat. "Human beings evolved to survive. Our bodies can handle extreme conditions that would kill most species. More importantly, our minds can process and adapt to changing threats in real time." Before anyone could stop her, she pressed her palm to the security scanner. The containment wing's emergency doors slid open with a hiss of escaping atmosphere. "Dr. Chen, this is suicide," Cathor protested. "Even if your physiology can handle the initial conditions, the rapid changes between environmental extremes will force my body to adapt," Sarah finished. "That's what humans do best. We don't just survive. We learn from every impossible situation we encounter." She stepped through the doorway. The alien medical staff watched in horror and fascination as their instruments tracked her life signs. Sarah's body temperature fluctuated wildly as she moved through sections of deadly cold and searing heat. Her cellular structure showed radiation damage, then immediate repair. Her neural patterns shifted and rewrote themselves as she encountered different threats. "Impossible," Arxtal whispered, watching the readings. "Her body is evolving in real time." Through the security feeds, they watched Sarah navigate the failing containment wing. She moved with purpose, her bare hands working with complex equipment that should have frozen or burned them off. When she reached sections of hard vacuum, her body somehow continued functioning despite the lack of atmosphere. 9 minutes until complete containment failure, the AI announced. Sarah reached the power core, her skin covered in a layer of frost in some places and showing radiation burns in others. The quantum matrix hummed with unstable energy that made the air itself shimmer. The core's quantum alignment is inverted, she reported through chattering teeth. But human nervous systems can act as organic quantum computers in extreme conditions, something we discovered by accident during early space exploration. The alien doctors watched in amazement as Sarah placed her hands directly on the power core. Her neural patterns lit up their instruments like a supernova as her nervous system interfaced directly with the quantum matrix. Human bodies are essentially billions of tiny machines working in harmony, Sarah explained, her voice trained. Each cell can process quantum information. Together, we can do this. The power core's energy patterns began to stabilize, aligning with the quantum frequencies being generated by Sarah's nervous system. The containment field strengthened, drawing power from the newly stabilized matrix. Containment restored to full power, the AI announced. All systems nominal. When the emergency teams finally reached her, Sarah was unconscious but alive. Her cellular structure showed signs of radical adaptation. New neural pathways, enhanced radiation resistance, improved temperature regulation. She's not just surviving, Voller observed in the medical bay later. Her body is learning from every impossible situation, becoming even more adaptable. Sarah woke hours later, her first words being a request for the incident data. We need to document this, she insisted. The human nervous system's quantum processing capabilities could revolutionize medical technology. The alien medical staff shared knowing looks. They were beginning to understand that humans didn't just face the impossible. They used it as an opportunity to evolve, to learn, to become even more remarkable. Perhaps, Cathor suggested, his crystalline form shimmering with newfound respect, we should stop being surprised by what humans can survive, and start studying how they turn survival into advancement. Sarah smiled, already reaching for her datapad to begin documenting her findings. After all, what was nearly dying in impossible conditions compared to the chance to advance medical science? Just another day at the Galactic Medical Academy, where humanity's greatest gift, the ability to turn impossible situations into stepping stones for progress, was changing the future of medicine itself. The conference hall of the Galactic Medical Academy was filled to capacity with beings from across the known universe. 3 months after Dr. Sarah Chen's remarkable series of impossible achievements, the medical community had gathered for what many were calling the most important xenobiological symposium in centuries. Holographic displays showed detailed scans of human cellular structure, neural patterns, and adaptive responses. Director Valara Zinn stood at the podium, her scales a professional shade of deep blue as she addressed the assembled scientists. What we have discovered about human biology challenges every principle of evolutionary theory we thought we understood, she began. Humans don't just survive. They thrive on adversity in ways that defy conventional medical science. The main display showed footage of Sarah treating patients in environments that should have been lethal, her body adapting to conditions that varied from deep space cold to plasma chamber heat. Their cellular structure exhibits what we now call quantum adaptive response. Cathor explained, his crystalline form refracting light, as he moved to the podium. Every human cell contains the potential to reorganize itself at the quantum level in response to environmental threats. In the front row, Sarah sat quietly, trying not to smile as her colleagues presented their findings about human biology. She'd spent weeks helping them document and understand capabilities that humans had always taken for granted. A Meridian scientist pulsed with skepticism, their energy pattern translating as a question. Are we to believe that this species evolved these capabilities by accident? Not by accident, Sarah responded, standing to join her colleagues. By necessity. Earth is a planet of extremes, massive temperature variations, diverse ecosystems, constant environmental changes. We evolved to not just survive these conditions, but to learn from them. The holographic display shifted to show human neural patterns during adaptation. Watch what happens when a human encounters a new threat, Sarah explained. Our nervous system doesn't just react. It creates new neural pathways, storing information about how to handle similar situations in the future. It goes beyond mere survival. Arxtal added, their sensory arrays pulsing with excitement. Human cellular memory appears to pass these adaptations on to future generations through subtle quantum entanglement of genetic material, something we previously thought impossible. The audience murmured as new data filled the displays. Human cellular regeneration rates, stress adaptation patterns, neural plasticity measurements. Each set of numbers defied conventional medical understanding. But the most remarkable discovery, Valera continued, is that human adaptive capabilities appear to be transferable. The Meridian patient Dr. Chen treated has maintained traces of human adaptive patterns in their energy matrix, improving their resilience to environmental disruptions. Sarah stepped forward, her expression serious. What we're discovering isn't just about human biology. It's about the possibility that all species have untapped adaptive potential. Humans just got there first because we had to. She gestured to a new set of displays showing successful medical treatments that would have been considered impossible 3 months ago. By understanding how human adaptation works, we've already developed new treatments for 27 previously terminal conditions. We're learning to tap into every species' hidden potential for adaptation and survival. A crystalline medical researcher raised several appendages. But the risks of studying these capabilities, the ethical implications, are precisely why this research needs to continue. Sarah interrupted gently. Humans have already learned the hard way about responsible use of our adaptability. We can help other species unlock their potential while avoiding the mistakes we made. The conference hall erupted in discussion as the implications became clear. This wasn't just about understanding human biology. It was about revolutionizing the entire field of medical science. We're establishing a new department, Valera announced over the excited buzz. The Center for Adaptive Medical Studies. Dr. Chen will serve as chief researcher, helping us understand not just how humans survive the impossible, but how we can use that knowledge to help all species reach their full potential. Sarah looked out over the assembled medical professionals, seeing not just scientific curiosity, but hope in their various physiological expressions. Humanity's greatest gift might not be their ability to survive anything, but their drive to help others do the same. The impossible is just the beginning, she said, bringing up a new set of research proposals on the holographic display. Now, who's ready to help us push the boundaries of what's possible in medical science? Nearly every being in the hall signaled their eagerness to participate. The age of impossible survivals was giving way to an era of unprecedented medical advancement, all because one species never learned when to quit. And somewhere in the quantum fabric of space-time, human adaptability was still writing new chapters in the story of survival itself. 1 year after the establishment of the Center for Adaptive Medical Studies, the Galactic Medical Academy had transformed beyond recognition. In the main research chamber, Dr. Sarah Chen stood before a wall of quantum displays, each showing successful treatments that would have been deemed impossible just months ago. The latest results are remarkable, Valera said, her scales shifting through shades of proud turquoise as she reviewed the data. 87 species have now demonstrated activated adaptive potential. We're seeing evolutionary leaps that should have taken millennia occurring in months. Sarah nodded, watching a display showing a crystalline patient regenerating damage that would have once been fatal. It's not just about survival anymore. We're teaching species how to thrive in conditions they never thought possible. The chamber door slid open as Kathor entered, his crystalline form now incorporating subtle patterns that mimicked human neural pathways, a side effect of the treatments they'd developed together. The Galactic Medical Council is here for the annual review. They're skeptical of our latest proposal. Of course they are. Sarah smiled. We're suggesting we can teach any species to adapt like humans. That's a pretty big claim. The council members filed into the chamber, representatives from every major spacefaring species, their various physiologies expressing different degrees of doubt and curiosity. The head counselor, a Meridian elder whose energy pattern rippled with ancient wisdom, spoke first. Dr. Chen, your work this past year has revolutionized our understanding of medical science. But this new proposal, to actively trigger adaptive evolution in other species, the risks are unprecedented. Sarah stepped forward, her confidence born from a year of proving the impossible possible. With respect, Council Elder, unprecedented doesn't mean impossible. Humans prove that adaptation isn't just about survival. It's about choice. Every species has the potential. They just need to learn how to access it. She gestured to the displays, showing case after case of successful adaptations. A crystalline pilot surviving in liquid methane. A meridian maintaining stable form in a magnetic storm. An axorid breathing oxygen without technology. Each of these was considered impossible a year ago. But the cellular stress these adaptations cause, another council member began, is precisely what drives evolution forward. Sarah interrupted gently. Humans didn't become adaptable because our environment was safe. We became adaptable because we refused to accept limitations, and then we learned to do it safely, controllably. Valera moved to stand beside her, scales shifting to match Sarah's determined expression. What Dr. Chen and our team have discovered isn't just a medical breakthrough. It's a fundamental shift in how we understand life itself. Thor activated a new display, showing the quantum patterns they discovered underlying all adaptive responses. Every species carries the potential for human-like adaptation in their cellular structure. We've simply learned how to activate it safely. The council members watched in silence as more data filled the displays. Successful treatments, evolutionary leaps, species learning to survive in environments they never thought possible. But it was the next display that truly captured their attention. This, Sarah said softly, is what happens when species learn from each other. The display showed neural patterns, cellular structures, and energy matrices from dozens of species, all adapting and evolving in harmony, each learning from the other's strengths. We're not just surviving anymore, she continued. We're evolving together. Humans showed it was possible, but every species has something to teach about adaptation and survival. The Meridian Elder's energy pattern pulsed with what the translators recognized as profound understanding. You're not proposing to make other species more like humans. No, Sarah agreed. We're proposing to help every species become the best version of themselves. Humans just happen to learn the hard way that the impossible is just a challenge waiting to be overcome. The council chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. This wasn't just about medical treatment anymore. It was about the next step in galactic evolution. Species learning from each other, adapting together, turning survival into an art form. Perhaps, the Meridian Elder pulsed softly. This is why humans were meant to join the galactic community. Not to teach us how to survive like humans, but to remind us that survival itself is just the beginning. Valera finished. The real question is, what does life become when every species learns to thrive? Sarah looked out at the assembled council, seeing in their various physiological responses the same wonder she'd felt when she first discovered her own species' remarkable capabilities. That's what we're here to find out, together. The council's approval was unanimous. As the members filed out, already discussing the implications for their own species, Sarah turned back to the displays showing endless possibilities for adaptation and growth. You know, she said to her colleagues, humans have a saying, life finds a way. Indeed, Thor replied, his crystalline form shimmering with newfound purpose. But perhaps it's time for a new saying. Life makes a way. And in the quantum fabric of the universe, countless species began to learn what humans had known all along, that the impossible was just the beginning of what life could become. The end.